I identify more with the African side of things, right?
Yeah.
I think
As do most Douglas, to be fair, that I've encountered.
Serious. Yeah. I think we like the faster life now, boy. Most of us. And when I say the instant gratification, and I think that is one of the things that keeps our race back. And then when we realize, it come like, we don't make those kind of weird investments where you just buy a piece of land that, that might never develop, or you don't know always the situation with it.
Hold on to it.
Right, but we go buy the car, and we go buy the whatever else. And the sneakers and gold.
To gain the status.
Right. And clothes and expensive clothes or whatever. Take trips, wherever we do.
Right. And
then they know, because let's be real, plenty people right here in Trinidad and Tobago would laugh at how some of the Indian people, how they dress. What kind of shoes is that? You understand? What should that old car they driving? And even if you want to carry it out to the States, plenty black people, because the black people are the cooler people in the US, let's be real, most of them.
Well, I mean, in general, I think black people drive culture.
Right.
Yeah.
And
not just in the States, I mean everywhere.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, you laugh at the white people who dress in weird and they wear and they...
Or the Asians. Or the Asians. I mean, because... And I say... And I point to them specifically because the white people are the dominant race, right? So you're looking at other people who come to the white man's land, essentially, and try, just like you, to make your way. And you would laugh at some of their customs, you'd laugh at some of their behavior, you'd laugh at the way they dress, you would laugh at the way, or you would demean their lifestyle in general. They're not they're not cool, they're not hip, they're not driving culture, like you say, they're not doing any of that. But then in 2 generations, a family that came to the country unable to speak English, with nothing in their pocket, has a business and children that are going to university with a tuition paid, not with $1 gazillion in debt when they come out.
Right.
And that's something that happens over and over. Now, there are African immigrants that do that. I saw that for myself when I was in the UK, that there are African immigrants who do that, but not in the amount, nowhere near in the proportion that you would see Asian immigrants do it.
But the thing is, I think people will tell you, for whatever reason, they will try to inject slavery there, though.
Well, yeah, and when you were going to reach the end of your point there just now, I was going to tell you, what they would say to that is that, black people, because of how they've been dehumanized and they've had the culture stripped away from them, they're just fighting for status. And that's true. But then you have to stop. You have to stop.
Oh, no. Let's say, I don't want to say stop. Well, for me, I wouldn't say stop. Change your strategy. So you could attain the status, but do it a different way.
You have to stop doing certain. You have to stop doing one thing, which is seeking the status instantly, right? You have to understand that the way that unless you're one of the extremely lucky ones, you're, a gifted child actor or whatever, you're not going to change your status immediately, right? You need to learn delayed gratification. So you refuse the opportunity to get a little status gain now so that you can get a lot of status gain in 10 years.
Exactly.
Right? That's something you have to learn. It doesn't matter what happened 100 zillion years ago. You still have to learn to do that. Because nothing can change what happened 100 zillion years ago.
I think that second part you just say is very important, because you see when they say it doesn't matter what happened 100 zillion years ago. People, whenever slavery happened, right? 400 and something years. Some people say, well, you see, why? They tell it, because of that, we suffering with the trauma still. And right?
All right. But how do you address that? By indulging in the same behavior? If you go to a therapist, if you had childhood trauma, right? And because you had childhood trauma, you now exhibit antisocial behavior. If you go to a therapist, is the way that the therapist is going to treat you, is it going to be to tell you to continue engaging in antisocial behavior? No, they'll sit you down and say, hey, I believe this is coming from here, and it's coming from here, and it's coming from here. These are some mechanisms, some habits you should try to form that are going to chip away at the problem. You're not going to change it in an instant, but you could chip away at the problem. And they're not going to tell you, well, yeah, because they understand it. What is the behavior you're displaying now has its roots in some sort of some sort of trauma that you experienced as a child, but we can't go back in the past and change that. All we could do is adjust your behavior from here, go forward.
Go forward, right. Yeah.
So that's all you have to, so you have to focus on that. And it's a hard road. I get that. It's a hard road. It's not going to be easy. I am not saying I am perfect. I had all of those hang-ups. I am much further back than I could or should have been at this point in time in my life, because I did a lot of that shit. Buying things I could not have afforded, and not thinking about investments and all that bullshit. So I'm not saying it's easy, but when I look back at my life or I look at my current position and I see the things that I have not attained, I know it's 98% my fault, because there are always decisions. I just kept making bad decisions, and even when I knew better, I didn't do better.
So you're really telling me it's not white supremacy, or it's not the white man, boy?
It's not even my parents. And that is probably where the buck should stop in many instances. Your personal, your childhood and your personal household. But I would stop and say, yeah. Okay, maybe if they had done certain things, it might have helped to inculcate some ideas in my head. But the point is, there was a point in time when I knew better, and I still made the decision to do shit. And that's my fault. That could only be on me. And even if I want to put it on them, how I go move forward now? Ask them to go to do better, go back and go put me back in your womb and build a better foundation for me. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. All I could do is look forward. And they, like you were saying, it's hard to do that, and it's easy to just externalize all the issues.
You see, the thing is, where I think sometimes again in such a dread routine, one, and I think sometimes those instant gratifications make you feel real good now, boy. Like the hit of dopamine or whatever you get from that weird spend or whatever the case may be.
And not just in weird spend, the emotional gratification that they get from wallowing in victimhood, because that's the more important thing.
I honestly can't. That's not very hard for me to even understand. I'll be very, very honest with you. I honestly can't understand that wallowing in victimhood. I don't understand it. I don't understand how somebody could play that victim card and be a victim all the time
and feel better about it.
Yeah.
Well, imagine this. Imagine you did not have the will to turn your situation around. Because the reason why you and I aren't like that is because we see it as helplessness. And it's one thing to be in the situation that you're in, but to then have no kind of you feel as if you have no control over improving a situation. Well, it's best to put me in the box one time. So for people like you and I, what we do is we would focus on how can we turn it around.
Right. How to get out of it. This right. Is I can't see somebody doing that and feeling good.
But if you didn't have the will to turn yourself around, how would be the only way to cope? The only way to cope would be to focus on the part of the problem that's not your fault.
I hear you, but I think even if I was doing that, I would have still just been real depressed now. But
I think some of them are depressed. I think some of them are they might be clinically depressed, but I think many of the people I mean the people who really, really focus on it, and everything for them is race, and they're always looking for the fault and this issue and looking for the racist angle. Anyway, I think they're very bitter people. I think they are people who it's two types of people. One, the people who doing it for material gain. So the race hustlers, the ones who make content, the politicians who do that to get votes, and the people
and it's a lot of people know. A lot of people,
right? Yeah. The ones who want a social media following, the ones who produce podcasts or whatever, who want to get so they get monetary gain from that. So they're doing it on purpose.
Colin Kaepernick and them.
Right, precisely. They're doing it on purpose, right? But the rest of them are generally. When you encounter somebody like that, that's a bitter. That's somebody who's always angry and always dissatisfied and always covering up the insecurities. So yeah, I think plenty of them might have some slight mental health issues too.